Thank you very much for the opportunity to present here. Just as a bit of a context, this is the Fundación Regenerativa team. We are, just as a bit of a context, we are in Chile. There is obviously a context of tremendous ecosystem degradation, mainly from a lot of different productive practices, both in agriculture, grazing, forestry. It is one of the 36 biodiversity hotspots of the world. There's obviously a tremendous need to be doing some work there. On the opposite hand, there's national, pretty ambitious commitments to both climate and biodiversity goals. So with that in mind, Fundación Regenerativa was created in order to kind of play a role in bridging that gap between what the current context is and what we need to get to. The goal of Fundación Regenerativa is to implement and articulate different instances of regeneration. That word in itself, regeneration, is a complex word. It's very context-specific. What we visualize as regeneration is, first and foremost, a systemic approach. Right? We need to recognize and value the relationships that exist within ecosystems. We need to understand that people and communities are an integral part of those systems. So we really work on ways of impacting the livelihoods of the people who are in these rural communities, farmers, foresters, landowners. And the way we work is providing the tools, the knowledge, and the capabilities for these landowners to be a part of that process of change, lead that change, and to then become agents of change themselves, right? One neighbor can be a source of inspiration or of demonstration of good practices for another neighbor, and then that becomes a community of change, right? That is kind of the way that we approach this kind of idea of regeneration. And finally, there exists throughout the country, there exists a lot of different organizations on the ground who are doing a lot of really valuable work. We need to recognize that those organizations exist and figuring out a way of turning those diverse organizations into a network of kind of collaborative movement. What that means on the ground is that we work both in regenerative agriculture and grazing. We work in ecological restoration and in conservation of ecosystems. And throughout those three pillars, let's say, education and capacity building are an integral part. They're nested in every single one of them. So what have we done so far? The organization has been working for the past 2 years. So we have projects on more than 20 hectares, specifically focused on 2 sites, Isla Mocha and El Walwal, which I'll show you in a second. We've also built a network of local organizations throughout Chile, both on a local level, regional level, and national level. We're constantly adding more to those, so that's obviously an ongoing process. And importantly, we created a national registry for regeneration projects, for which we've had an incredible kind of interest in that. There's been 200 landowners who have shown interest in kind of becoming a part of that registry, transitioning to different kind of regenerative practices. And that would entail a regenerative potential of around 26,000 hectares. This is Isla Mocha. It's one of our flagship programs. It's where we've been able to kind of show the array of tools that we bring to the table. So the land itself in the center is a natural reserve, protected area, and around the coastal kind of lowlands, there's a huge amount of degradation from grazing and farming mostly. There's obviously deforestation, and what we've been able to do is a combination of different things. So regenerative education programs for different schools. We've been able to do projects in holistic grazing. We've been able to do reforestation projects and create biodiversity corridors. And we've been able to do some capacity building for farmers and how to integrate the kind of the transition between the farmland and the nature reserve. There's also a bit of soil health and ecosystem monitoring. That's something that we're starting to do there. We're using EOV tools for the grazing, but we are definitely open to exploring different ways that we can integrate other kind of data monitoring techniques. The 2 main challenges we're facing first and foremost is the magnitude of the challenge, right? Both in terms of what we've been able to see the interest with the national registry. That's 200 different landowners, but that is not quite what we can achieve with our current capabilities. and even comparing it to the national goals. I mean, the gap there is tremendous. There needs to be an increase in progress of around 64%, 64 times, sorry. And given that, the size of that challenge, the current financial model that we have is not totally adequate. We have a grant-based approach. It is obviously very precarious. And what we're looking for is a kind of funding that would allow us to do more long-term projects, long-term monitoring, long-term impact. What is our future vision? Basically, what we are trying to do is get this regenerating project off the ground. We have identified 20 different projects throughout the country that they qualify under a certain amount of social and ecological impact standards. We would want these projects to be, in a way, these seeds, right? We're planting the seeds of regeneration of the country that can then create these communities of change. They can impact directly 400 hectares of land and indirectly benefiting around 4,000 hectares. What do we need to make this happen? We are asking for $2 million spent over the course of 4 years. That would go for a series of operational costs, hiring of local experts, providing tools, providing educational material, providing data monitoring, and other things. And that would basically allow us to, as I said, create these different pockets of change, right? That's, I think in comparison to a lot of the projects that are presenting here, we're not addressing a single large amount of land. What we're trying to do is create these different pockets of change that we, sort of kind of like dominoes that we can then use to kind of spread the regenerative movement throughout the country. We're looking for partnerships, we're looking for investment, we're looking for companies that are willing to sit down and talk with us and figure out how we can collaborate together. So I really hope you can join us on the regenerative journey. Thank you very much.